It is my pleasure to introduce a woman I admire so much. She was one of the first people I encountered many years ago when I was first learning about women's spirituality, goddess spirituality, and I was fortunate enough, and she was already leading circles and rituals and already a leader. And I came to her rituals on the beach in LA, and I was entranced, and I learned so much from her. She is a 4 times published author, 4 books now. She has an incredible radio show, Voices of the Sacred Feminine, which has the best guests ever. And I believe it's archived, so you can always listen to older ones. There's so much wisdom in there. I don't know how she finds these people, but they are amazing, amazing. And she herself is this channel of wisdom. We are so fortunate to have her be a pillar of this community in partnership with her husband, Roy. In fact, I will mention, she and Roy were the ones who gave a permanent donation, as long as the temple stands, this magnificent Sekhmet statue. Yeah. They have really changed the whole vibration of this room. It really did. What a great gift. So we are very, very thrilled for this continuing partnership to benefit this spiritual community. So we ask you to clap and give a warm, warm welcome to Reverend Dr. Karen Tate.
Thank you so much. And Dr. Mailuna, what a perfect entree into what I'm going to say today. I don't know if it was planned, but synchronicity always works, right? So, I'm here today to talk to you about what I started learning many years ago from one of my early mentors, Riane Eisler. Just by show of hands, who knows who Riane Eisler is? Okay, some of you know her and some of you are getting to know her now. I am standing here today probably because of 3 women. The first is probably Lady Olivia Robertson from the Fellowship of Isis, who invited me to Clonical Castle to ordain me as a priestess of Isis many years ago. But then the other 2 women I would always like to credit is Merlin Stone, the foremother feminist, who I love when she said the Garden of Eden myth was probably the first story of political propaganda. But Riane Eisler was the other. And Riane is incredible because some of you maybe know her, one of her early books, The Chalice and the Blade. Well, that was the book that set me on my path. I realized what we are all doing today isn't just a feminist fantasy, it isn't some conspiracy theory that goddess was being worshipped 30, 40, maybe even 100,000 years ago, depending on which of the artifacts you look at. Well, Riane has been wonderful in her academic work, but I think she's also been very courageous because she didn't just put forth the idea of let's look at history again, let's look at religion again. Anybody can stand in front of a room and spout history and spout religion. You just have to be good at memorizing academia. But she took it a step further. She had the courage to begin to be a moral compass that associated the sacred feminine and feminine ideals with how we could be better people in the world, how we could make the world a better place. And she started to do that at the very back of the book, The Chalice and the Blade, when she started talking about partnership. And from that book, The Chalice and the Blade, she went on to write this book, The Power of Partnership. And it is so relevant today because partnership, quite frankly, could probably solve most of the ills of the world. And that's what I want to start to talk to you about these next couple months, because on fourth Sunday, beginning this month and going through to I think September, June, July, August, September, I'm going to talk a little bit about different types of partnership. And what they are is, what I'm going to chat about today is partnership with self, because that's very important. I think especially for we women, because as Dr. Maluna said, you know, the world tells us to be small. The world tells us to be a hairball in the corner. When we speak out and we want to be our authentic self, people say, "Oh, you make me uncomfortable."
Yes.
You
Yes.
know, be quiet.
Yes.
Maybe you even belong in the kitchen, barefoot
Oh.
and pregnant. We've heard that, you know, or maybe, you know, maybe you're just too loud. Maybe you complain too much. Heaven forbid you might want equal rights and equal pay.
Yeah.
Now, partnership with self we'll talk about today. Next month we're going to talk about partnership with our intimate others, because that's really important too. The following month we're going to talk about partnership with our local and global community. And then the fourth one is partnership with spirit, partnership with deity, partnership with the all that is. And if this goes well, because these are just going to be short little snippets, maybe we'll do a workshop, we'll see.
Okay.
But that's what this work is going to be about. And one of the things Riane Eisler first started to talk about when she started talking about partnership was the dominator pyramid. And we have to know about that, because we are all suffering from the dominator pyramid today. We might not call it the dominator pyramid. We call it the 99%, the 1%. You have the 1% at the top of the pyramid dictating to everybody else at the bottom. And that's why we have the income disparity we have. That's why there's so much injustice and suffering and austerity in the world. So besides the 99% versus the 1%, on the dominator side, you also have things like authoritarianism, corporatism, austerity, incrementalism, predator capitalism, control and domination. What you have on the partnership side is egalitarianism, populism, democratic socialism, respect, caring economics, which is a big thing Riane Eisler is talking about today, caring economics, and of course partnership. These things fit under these different umbrellas, if you get my gist. So in order to be in partnership with ourselves, one of the key things we have to start thinking about and looking at is, are we in balance with our health, our body, our spirit, and our mind? You know, are all of those things in balance? And I'd like you to just think about this for a second. When was the last time you ever heard anybody out there in authority who's always spouting stuff on TV or wherever ask you about your quality of life? Do you have a good quality of life? I don't think they ask you to ask yourself that, because they don't really want you to think about it too much. They want you to just keep being that consumer, that predator on the that consumer on the wheel. You know, they don't want you to think about, do you have a good quality of life? You know, because if we thought about it, if we fought for it, things might not be the way they are today. So the other thing is how do you treat yourself? Okay? Think about that. You know, I know as a woman, when I went through this program with Riane, that's probably the area I was the most lacking in. You know, it's like the giving mother that Ava teaches about in her Queen teachings. We give and we give and we give and we give till we can't give anymore and there's nothing left. So I would like you to think about that analogy we hear all the time. Employ it in daily life. That idea of when you're on the plane and that air mask, the oxygen mask comes down, we know we got to put that on our face first, or we can't help anybody next to us. Well, you think about that with everything you do. if you don't take care of yourself, there's not going to be anything left for anybody else that you care about or anything else, that you care about in the world. The other thing is, ask yourself, are you living a life of meaning? Are you living a life of meaning? Does that matter to you? Or does just how many shoes in the closet matter? When I was at the Council for the Parliament of World Religions, one of the most influential things I heard that entire time was a speaker at one of the plenary sessions who said, when you pass through the veil, he was very careful not to say you meet God. He said when you meet your maker, didn't put a gender on it, when you meet your maker or you meet Deity, and Deity says to you, where are your scars? And you say, scars? What scars? And Deity says to you, was there nothing in your life worth fighting for? Just some food for thought about what kind of, a life are we leading? Are we leading a meaningful life? But on to simpler things, lighter things. Do you push yourself when you're tired? Do you keep going and going? Do you criticize yourself or allow others to marginalize you? Do you always think if you're good enough? Do you carry around anxiety, like Dr. Maluna said? Like right now, are you sitting there comfortable or are you tense? Is your shoulders up in your neck and jaw? Are you fearful? Do you use humor maybe to mask your fear? Do you hide your flaws and consider them virtues because maybe the flaws are a little bit too hard to look at? Do you suppress aspects of yourself? Do you not have the courage of your convictions to show who you are truly, authentically? Were you taught to submit or conform? Were you taught to never express anger or frustration or need? Well, I'm sure a lot of us can say yes to a lot of those questions at different points in our life or from day to day. Stress can be different. But if you were taught to conform and obey and submit, you grow up looking outside yourself rather than inside yourself for strength, creativity, and your own way of being in the world. And if you've never been allowed to vent or show your anger or frustration, that can lead to depression and guilt and unhappiness. So think about that. Think about the box you were put in that you have to break out of that maybe is chafing you and preventing you from being happy and fulfilled. And sometimes we fight back by acting out. Sometimes our solution to these things is obsessions, maybe addictions, maybe it's sex, drugs, shopping too much, all sorts of negative things. Some other things to ask, because in order to be in partnership with yourself, we have to do some what we call self-facing, or looking at ourselves. So maybe think about it. Do you pride yourself on your intellectual achievement, but you neglect the wisdom of your heart? Do you focus on exercise and beauty, but again, what's happening to your heart, your soul, your spirit? Do you focus on religious or cultural traditions or gender bias rather than being your authentic self? Do you focus on your assets and those sorts of measures of success? Or do you focus on your personal growth, maybe experiences rather than assets, monetary assets? Are you a people pleaser, a chameleon? Are you hiding who you are? Or do you let the people see the real you inside? So those are some questions we have to ask ourselves, because happiness and health require balance in all of our different roles. And oftentimes, you know, it's our family relationships, it's our gender, it's our work relationships, it's our politics, it's our spirituality. Sometimes these things get all messed up, and we have to really take a moment, take a breath, and think about who we are, who we want to be. So it's not a surprise that much of our happiness or unhappiness can be tracked back to our childhood. And if we're still allowing ourselves to be held captive by domination that we learned in all of its many forms. Were you growing up in a household that was maybe authoritarian, conservative, dominating? Or were you living in a household, and did you grow up in one that was maybe more caring, let you express yourself, maybe more liberal, more democratic, where you had a voice? So the whole point is, if we're suffering from these different forms of domination, these things that are preventing us to be happy, from being happy and healthy, we have to look at those as, for what they are, look at those as domination rather than partnership with ourselves. And we have to find a way to deprogram the dysfunction and the domination. We have to get past the roles that other people put us in, whether these roles come from our family, our gender, our religion, our politics, whatever it is. So, a couple things I'm going to just, participatory things for you to just kind of sit there and do. And we sort of touched on this already, but right now even, maybe some of those things kind of got under your skin a little bit. Maybe it just got a little bit too close to home. Observe, do you have tension, stiffness? Are you holding your breath? Or are you not relaxing? Well, just in case you are, or even if you aren't, let's take a deep breath in, and a deep breath out. And a deep breath in, and a deep breath out. You can almost think of it as, and when you're breathing, when you're breathing in, you're breathing in health and partnership. When you're breathing out, you're letting go of dis-ease, domination, the things that just don't serve you anymore. You have no reason to keep holding on to them just because maybe they're familiar. Toss them out the window. Think about ways you've been taught to be embarrassed about your body or some aspect of yourself. I think men and women have this trip. If you're not the football player type, if you're a guy, maybe you're of smaller stature. How does society treat you versus the jock? If you're a woman, if you don't look like a model and weigh 90 pounds, patriarchy tells you you're not beautiful. So think about those things that the outside world tells us to marginalize ourselves, that we don't need, that we just need to cast off. That's dysfunction. That's a form of domination. That's the whole point. We have to see this as a way to hold us down, as a way of domination. It keeps us that hairball in the corner if we think we're not good enough. And another thing, talking to, like Dr. Maluna said, about the woman on the plane who just sort of checked out. Society wants us to check out. And they do it lots of different ways. Loud music, drugs, sex, violent TV shows. It makes us detach from our humanity, detach from our feelings, detach from who we are. I mean, look, I love some of these shows on TV. I really do. I'm a real fan of The Walking Dead. Okay? But I always put the caveat, but I like to see how the people interact with each other. It's not really about the zombies. But that is true to a certain extent, it's how are people treating one another under duress, under dire circumstances, in the apocalypse, you know. So, you know, just be observant. Don't check out. Look at how the outside world would have us be, because it's a form of control and it's a form of domination. And I'll close my talk today with referring you to the page that I put on your chair, and you can take it back, take it home with you. Let's go to the bottom first. These are just some helpful questions to ask yourself. You know, when you're in the mood to do some self-reflecting and do some meditating. Ask yourself, what do I observe that doesn't contribute to my well-being? How do I feel in relationship to what I observe? What I need or value that causes my feelings. And most importantly, going back to quality of life, what would enrich my life? You know, because if we can't imagine it, we'll never manifest it. Right. Okay? So request it in every way possible, from your relationship to Deity, to your relationship with yourself, your relationship with your spouse, your boss, the world. Request it. And what concrete actions would I like taken? Now that also might mean, what concrete actions are you willing to take for yourself? You know, what changes might you be willing to make to have that happiness, to have that better partnership with yourself? And finally, it's just kind of a little meditation, or a little, you can turn it into a breathing exercise. You see up at the top of the page the word partner. So with the P, pause and be still. Do some mindfulness, do some self-reflecting. Are you taking care of yourself? The A, appreciate. Appreciate yourself. Appreciate all you've accomplished. Appreciate and be in gratitude for who you are and what you have. Rest. Rest. That's the R. I mean, that's getting to be a popular theme, I think, with Riane Huffington going around, even in the corporate world, saying we need more rest. We do. Because that's when we energize ourselves. That's when we can recharge our batteries so the creative juices flow. T, take your time. Take your time. We don't always have to be in a rush. Take your time, take a breath, ground yourself. Nourish. The N is for nourish. That can mean lots of different things, from who do you surround yourself with? Do you have a supportive community who nourishes you and supports you and encourages you? Are you eating the right foods? Are you getting people out of your life who don't serve you? That's part of nourishment. E is enjoy. Enjoy the little things. You know, if you wake up in the morning, I remember when I last did, I don't live in a house, I live in an apartment, and when I stayed over at Ava's recently, one of the most pleasant things was waking up in the morning, and I heard the birds singing outside your window. You know, let's make sure we appreciate and enjoy even the little things, because that helps us have gratitude, that fills us up. And finally, it's never too late to restart and renew. You know, I know we tend to do it as goddess people at the beginning of the year, but we can restart ourselves, we can rebirth who we are, we can decide, you know, we can always recreate who we are. Nothing is stopping us. If yesterday didn't work and last year didn't work, there's no reason tomorrow can't be different. So rest and renew. So thank you for listening to me, and we'll continue the talk on partnership next fourth Sunday with the talk partnership with our intimate others. And just a thank you to Riane Eisler for the wonderful work she's doing in the world on caring economies, because that is so important. We don't have a caring economy, and we do need to have one. And if you want more information on Riane Eisler, you can go to her website. which is the Center for Partnership Studies, or I'm always happy to refer you. So thank you all very much for listening.